an unbeatable gamer and the feared virtual Demon King, faces a drastic change in his shut-in life when he ends up teleporting to a complete game-like world as his own made character, Diablo. Watch as this man progresses through a completely new experience in life for the sake of conquering this world just like he had conquered that video game in his previous one. In a time where the world's most played game is Cross Reverie, an MMORPG, a single player is infamous for being so overpowered that he is known as the Demon Lord Diablo. Diablo is the undisputed champion and has a reputation for destroying anyone who challenges him. Diablo's whole persona seems extremely alpha, until you realize that behind the screen, Takuma Sakamoto, the user of Diablo, is just a complete shut-in who cares about nothing other than his life inside the virtual world. Takuma was busy with his usual pathetic life until a sudden magic spell causes him to be teleported into a game-like world with him having the body of his own character, Diablo. Takuma, or Diablo, was summoned by two girls, Rem and Shera, who wanted to summon a slave for their registration under the local Adventurers Guild. The girls are arguing about who owns Diablo when Diablo's magic ring makes them follow his orders and make up before becoming Diablo's slaves instead. Diablo is genuinely confused about what is just happening when he introduces himself as the Demon Lord and follows the girls to the local inn in the town of Faltra. The receptionist, Mei-chan, welcomes them and forces the three to share a single room. Diablo is still analyzing whether all this is real or not when an unwelcome guest visits their room. The guest was the head of the Mage Association, named Celestine Baudelaire, and she requests to have a word with the three after noticing slave collars around the girls' necks. Diablo ends up in an awkward situation as he has no idea of how to remove these collars, and during the conversation with Celestine, he notices that Rem is hiding a big secret. Celestine's guard, named Gallic, tries to be disrespectful to Diablo, and without even intending, Diablo ends up giving him a scary stare. Celestine leaves to have a look at how to remove the collars, while Diablo takes Rem back to the room where she bursts into tears as she reveals how there is a Demon King sealed within her soul ever since she was a baby. Diablo acts on impulse and remarks how he will help Rem out, but not knowing what to do exactly, takes Diablo out on a walk at night to recollect his thoughts. Diablo is busy minding his own business when a drunk Gallic arrives with his minions to bother Diablo. Diablo is not really interested in taking the disrespect, and Gallic pulls out the ace up his sleeve, summoning a fire-breathing salamander. Gallic's summon tries its best to deal some damage to Diablo, but Diablo just stands there unfazed before demolishing the salamander without even trying. Gallic gets absolutely terrified and is about to pass out from fear when Diablo makes up his mind and announces that he is the Demon King from another world. On the next day, our Demon Lord is following a pissed Rem towards the Adventurers Guild when he comes to know how a level system exists in this world, just like it did in the game. Our crew reaches the scary guild to register as adventurers, and upon his turn, Diablo's magic ends up blowing the aptitude mirror itself. As there was no other way of letting someone register as an adventurer, Diablo is assigned to go and hunt the Madara snake as a replacement. The quest was most probably requested by Celestine, and as the three are walking, Diablo starts to realize the differences between this world and Cross Reverie. The lack of basic things like teleportation and movement stones makes our group walk for 5 hours straight, and upon their arrival at the spooky forest, Shera's elf sense alarms the other two about how they have some guests awaiting them. Not being sure of the severity of the danger leads Diablo to literally blow up a huge chunk of the forest, and his destruction reveals how a group of elf mercenaries were awaiting them. The elves reveal that Shera is the Greenwood princess, and that her brother wants him to come back. Shera is not interested in the offer, so Diablo stands up for her and challenges the peasants. Diablo realizes that the levels in this world are really weak when compared to Cross Reverie, and he takes full benefit of this opportunity to leave the elves terrified. Seeing the elves fail leads Gallic to come out and admit that he was the one who leaked the information to the elves. Diablo gives him a last warning, while Shera clearly states that she has no plans of returning and would rather stay with Diablo and Rem as her companions. After completing the first assigned quest, our group is back at the guild where Diablo and Shara accept a quest to run an errand for the bridge of Uluk. Rem decides to stay back due to personal reasons, and Diablo respects her decision. The three are having a word down at the lobby of the guild when an ignorant man named Emil comes up to bother them. Emil is the self-proclaimed protector of all women, so he decides to take Diablo down for enslaving the girls. The girls are trying to say something, but even Diablo is too excited for an actual first fight. Emil seems like a competent warrior, but contrary to Diablo's expectations, he turns out to be quite lame, so Diablo just smokes him easily. Before the fight could get any further, the girls explain the situation to Emil, and Shara heads out for the bridge of Uluk with Diablo. The pair was sent to deliver some potions and supplies to the guard. After reaching the bridge, Diablo comes to realize that something is wrong as people are falling back to the city of Faltra. It turns out that a fallen army was heading this way, and after seeing the looks on the guards and Shara's faces, Diablo decides to generously lend his help. Diablo steps up and fights alone as the Demon King needs no allies. Back in the city, Rem is approached by Celestine, who shares her suspicion with Rem about how Diablo might be a fallen as well. Celestine also reveals that she had kicked Gallic out of the Mage Association, but as Gallic was too arrogant to accept his own fault, he instead breaks into the inn and stabs himself with a cursed dagger to turn into a fallen named Gregory. Fallen were boss-level monsters in Cross Revere, which makes Diablo excited again, and he starts to defeat Fallens left and right back at the bridge. Diablo was way too dominant against the fallen mobs, so the army decides to up the level as their commander steps in herself to take Diablo out. While Diablo was busy at the bridge of Uluk, people had been falling back to Faltra in hopes of getting protection inside Celestine's barrier that was made to keep Fallen out. Gregory had other plans, as he took on the job to take the barrier down by killing Celestine. Rem acts pretty quickly and tries to take Celestine to a safe place, while Gregory destroys everything as he chases him down. The ladies end up getting badly cornered by the Fallen, but Emil arrives to help them out with some other adventurers to back him up. Emil tries his best to attack, but the guy turns out to be completely outmatched. Despite the difference in skills, Emil still keeps on going, and Diablo, who was just playing with Commander Edelgard, tastes some minor damage for the very first time. Edelgard was surprised when her strongest attacks did nothing, and Diablo was intending to drag the fight until he got the message that the city was under attack. Diablo decides to just quickly finish this, and demolishes the whole fallen army with a single White Nova spell. With the use of some teleportation magic, Diablo manages to head back instantly, and just when Emil was about to die, Diablo arrives to save the three. The Demon King acknowledged Emil's fighting spirit and thanked him before showing his wrath to Gregory, who had dared to kill so many people and even hurt Rem. Diablo starts raging and he uses his magic to absolutely crush Gregory, making him beg for mercy. Diablo keeps torturing the Fallen until he is satisfied and kills him by sending Gregory to a different dimension. Diablo receives thanks from the girls, and later on, after burying those who had lost their lives, the town returns to normal once again. The peace doesn't last all that long, however, as now the group has to attend a meeting with the lord of the town named Chester Ray Galford, since the city was warned that if Shara won't return to Greenwood, the elves will start a war with Faltra. Galford is revealed to be a former hero, so Diablo is advised by everyone to talk politely. Being a former introvert makes a proper introduction all too tough for Diablo, and he ends up acting rude towards Galford. The rest of the group is terrified of the consequence of such behavior, but Galford finds the bunch interesting and proceeds to explain how the elves will be attacking the city. Galford was more interested in handing Shara over instead of having his men die, but after seeing Diablo refuse with a straight face, the hero leaves it up to Diablo to handle the situation on his own. Galford does, however, assign a female knight named Alicia Cristella for the bunch's aid, and seeing just how perfect of a person Alicia is, makes Diablo worry about his own personality. Alicia joins the group officially, and as soon as they get out of Galford's castle, Diablo decides to get a scythe so he can deal non-lethal blows on enemies. Everything was going smoothly, and Diablo was intending to get some potion for their adventure, when Shara ends up getting kidnapped. With the help of Emil, Diablo does manage to secure Shara, but the over-serious Alicia ends up blaming herself for the whole thing. Diablo tries to console someone for once and tells Alicia that there is no need for her to be so hard on herself, but Alicia ends up misunderstanding him completely, lighting a wrong fire inside her heart. On the next day, the group attends a little meeting with Celestine, who reveals how a slave trader she knows is in town and that she might be able to help out with the removal of the slave collar with her magic. Alicia was not interested, as the main priority was to sort out the issue with the elves, but Diablo ends up heading for the market anyways. The crew ends up returning with no real success, and back at the inn, Alicia was about to leave the other three for her own room when an unexpected guest knocked on the door. It turns out to be Shara's brother, Kira, and seeing the first prince of Greenwood leaves Shara terrified. Kira was here to take his sister back, and he apologized on his father's behalf on how he had gone overboard with the whole bounty hunter thing. Before Kira could say all that much, Diablo stands right in front of him, telling him to leave Shara alone. Diablo's bold statement makes Shara really happy, and even though Kira leaves for the moment, later on in the middle of the night, we find him again on top of a tree, blowing his flute, having a wicked expression on his face, with persistence to take Shara back by any means. A dream takes us back in time to when Diablo, or Takuma, was just a kid having fun with his so-called friends, and how he went through depression after coming to know that he was just being used by people he considered as his friends. On the next morning, Rem decides to have a word with Celestine, and Alicia had to attend a meeting with Galford, so Diablo ends up trying some potion development out with Shara. Everything was going well, and Diablo had found a way to make potions of his own until the sound of a flute changed something inside Shara as she decided to return to Greenwood. Diablo is unable to believe why Shara is having such a change of mind, but hearing those words from Shara's mouth herself makes Diablo so powerless that he ends up just watching as Shara leaves with Kira, who was awaiting her outside in a wagon. Seeing Shara leave makes Diablo enter a depressed state again, as he had someone leave him all alone once again, just like in his previous life. Rem and Alicia arrive, but they're not able to say anything when they find Diablo in a gloomy state as he walks back to the room to just sleep for the rest of the time. While Diablo was not able to think straight, Rem and Alicia start looking around and they deduce how Shara must have been hypnotized by the prince. Rem reveals this to Diablo, and after realizing that Shara is too stupid to plot something like this, Diablo joins the other two girls on the mission of saving Shara. When Diablo's team was on the move, we're headed to Kira's camp to find out how he had actually hypnotized Shara. Shara is still not interested in going back with Kira, which really pisses him off, and he's about to use some evil way of punishment, but the day gets saved when Diablo arrives just in time. Kira was trying to still use his hypnosis, but Diablo commands Shara to tell the truth through her slave collar, and after seeing her cry for freedom, Kira realizes that he has no other choice but to summon his trump card monster called the Force Hydra. The Hydra turns out to be an insanely big beast, and the biggest problem was that Diablo hadn't faced it in Cross Rivera. The Hydra was not controlled by even Kira, who summoned it, and seeing this leads Diablo to go for the offense as soon as possible. Diablo does manage to take one of the Hydra's heads out with a standard rock spell, but before he could have done anything else, the Hydra regenerates back to health. The only possible way of beating this monster turns out to be the destruction of its core, but as destroying such a monster's core was just not effectively possible, Diablo decides to incinerate the whole Hydra with its core alongside. After the death of the Hydra, Kira sees death in the face of Diablo, but before Diablo could end Kira's story, Shara interferes and succeeds in requesting Diablo to spare her brother. Even though Diablo had spared his life, Kira doesn't live all that long when Galford comes out of thin air to cut the prince's head off. Galford reveals how he was watching the whole time as he took advantage by defeating the already beaten up elven army. Galford also asks Diablo to surrender Shara to him as he wishes to conquer the lands of Greenwood, but he had to trap Diablo inside an energy ball as the Demon Lord would not comply. As Diablo was out of the game for now, Alicia tries to defend Shara, but Galford just leaves her in a traumatized state as he easily destroys her sword due to the huge level gap. Galford was about to get his hands on Shara when Diablo manages to get out of the energy ball, and his return commences a duel between Demon King and the former hero. As the fight continues, we realize just how good of a warrior Galford is when he forces Diablo, who had defeated a fallen army by himself, on the back foot. Diablo was not at 100% state, as he had used a lot of magic against the Hydra, but despite taking damage, the feeling of finally facing a competent enemy keeps him going. With the use of some gamer moves that he got during his grind and some luck, Diablo manages to defeat Galford after an extremely close fight. Galford accepts his loss and tells Diablo to kill him if he doesn't want to be reported to the kingdom, but Diablo decides to let the hero live, as humiliation was enough. Alicia helps out in making Galford head back through some blackmailing, and after such an intense night, Diablo somehow manages to reach his room back in Faltra, with literally zero magic to spare. After finally having some free time for real, Alicia decides to visit the kingdom for some important discussion where she comes across a hardcore cultist named Sadler, who absolutely despised demons and anything related to them. This normally would have been no concern for Alicia, but it turns out that Sadler was going to use his authority as a paladin to have a look around Faltra for sniffing out the revived demon lord and punish him. Alicia got extremely concerned by this claim, and back at Faltra, after Shera had finally succeeded in summoning a bird, Diablo teaches her how to use it for better archery. The group is later joined by Edelgard, who offers to help and release the Demon King inside Rem without killing her. Diablo accepts, and the two have a deal set for 3 days from now. Sometime later, Diablo is at a local restaurant with the girls when he is approached by Alicia, full of worry. Alicia is trying to sneak Diablo to a safe place when somehow they end up confronting Sadler himself. Sadler attacks Rem with his divine punishment, but Diablo easily calls him out on his facade as it was just basic magic. The paladin is unable to take this level of disrespect, and he tries to turn Diablo into stone, but Diablo's magic reflection reverses the magic, turning Sadler into a statue. Diablo does notice something weird in Alicia's behavior, but ignores it for the time being, as the group now looks forward to the ritual at Starfall Tower for Rem's real freedom. And that would be it for Diablo's story in today's recap. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Drop us a like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one.